we also don't have to be afraid of the changes we see going on in the world. I mean, we can read Revelation and get a decent idea of how the world is going to end. And the big thing you can notice there is that, once again, God is still in control.
Yes.
The world isn't just going to implode because we drove our cars too much. I'm not saying we shouldn't be aware of those things and take care of the world and recycle when you can.
Yes.
Do these things, take the steps that you can, but don't fear it.
Welcome to Clarity Over Chaos, the podcast brought to you by Women in Apologetics, where we cut through the noise of culture to help teen girls and young adult women build a confident Christian worldview. In each episode, you'll join myself, Jade, and Cassie as we have honest, engaging conversations about identity, mental health, discipleship, critical thinking, and conversations all about these things through the lens of Christian apologetics. If you're navigating big questions and want to grow in truth and grace, you're in the right place.
Clarity Over Chaos is one of the many ways Women in Apologetics strives to educate, equip, and encourage young women like you in Christian apologetics. If you enjoy this podcast, I invite you to follow us on Instagram. Check out the episode description for more information. All right, it's so good to see you, Jade.
Here we go. It is so good to see you, Cassie. And what's really cool for all of you listening, we are recording in October, which means we just had our 8th annual Women in Apologetics conference. So we actually got to see each other, Cassie and I, and our whole WIA team, most of our WIA team, in person in Texas. So that was the best time. Cassie, how was your time at the WIA conference?
Oh my gosh, I loved every minute. Honestly, I really did. Like, people just say that sometimes, but I really mean it. Like, the WIA team is such a family. And I feel like it's not just even the WIA team. Like, there are some ministries that we always partner with that you see there every year, like Mama Bear and Monique and Krista. And we get to see them every year.
Yeah.
And they're just part of the family too. Like, it really is that way. I can't emphasize that enough.
It's so true. And even what makes me so excited is we'll have attendees who attend our conferences year after year, and they use it as a time to like meet up and make friends with people who they've met in past conferences. And that just thrills me because of course we want to teach and educate and equip, but the fellowship is crucial. I mean, God made us to be friends and to fellowship and to encourage one another. So when women and girls get to meet each other through our WIA conferences and develop friendships that last year after year, and they use the conference as a meetup point, that just blesses my heart so much. I love that.
Yes. So well, and I love that. I feel like increasingly we're seeing generations of women come together. So much this year, I saw grandmas and moms and daughters all coming together. Nieces, all these younger women are starting to come as well. And it's just been this wonderful experience of seeing families be like, this is great and you need to come with me.
Yeah.
And I even got to see another WIA volunteer, Sheridan, and I had the meetup here in Washington. And one of the ladies that came to our meetup came to the conference. So we got to see her. We got to say hi. Shout out to Selena. So it was wonderful. It really, really was. And I met new ministries. It just blew me away. It blows me away every year. Somehow it gets better and better every year. And it's got to be God.
I completely agree. And our speakers, they were like the Avengers of female apologists this year. I mean, we had Professor Nancy Piercy come and speak, and we have wanted to have her speak at our conference since the beginning. And we never thought we'd be able to bring her in. I mean, she is truly like our grandmother, our aunt in Christian apologetics. She was doing this when fewer than there are now, were in this field. And she is brilliant. If you haven't read her book, Love Thy Body yet, it's a little brainy. I mean, it is getting into real research about how did we get here as a society and how we think about our bodies, sexuality, abortion, transgender ideology. How did we get here? And it is an incredible piece of work. And she's so fun. I didn't expect her to be so much fun in person. She has an amazing sense of humor, and she's just so sweet and has this little giggle when she like kind of gets tickled. And I loved it.
And I mean, hearing Krista and her talk was wonderful. And then Alicia Wood blew me away with her talk. Like some of the stories she told, you guys go watch these talks. I'm telling you, you can get them online on the WIA website. I don't know if they're out yet, but they will be. And so as of this recording, they're not quite yet, but get those talks. I'm going to watch the one with Alicia with my daughter because she will eat up those stories that she told. Absolutely.
Yeah, Alicia's talk was about why is God so hidden, or like how we perceive God to be very hidden. And she told these amazing accounts of what missionaries have seen through encountering people groups who are unreached. And a shout out to Alicia's podcast. It's called Hey Alicia. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Yeah. And she just answers questions that people send in all about faith. And she's so brilliant and we love her. She's a longtime friend and family member. And shout out to Krista and Monique at the Center for Biblical Unity. If you have questions about what it looks like to think about race and identity and issues regarding that from a biblical worldview, look, I even, if you're watching this, I got my Center for Biblical Unity sticker right here. See, it's all different skin colors and the shape of the rainbow. I love it. And we got all kind of cute WIA stickers going on. So if you haven't got your WIA stickers in person from one of our conferences, come for the stickers. We have
100%. Like the freebies, the first night, that's like my main focus. The first night, I've got to get to all the freebies. Like
the stickers, the pins.
This conference knows its audience. I'm telling you, ladies, you go to find the one that has a bag, and then you just go around and you get stickers and pens and pamphlets. It's amazing. And you get to talk to incredible people. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I feel even though the conference, we put in a lot of work and it kind of feels like Christmas, you're preparing for this amazing time of year where you put so much work and thought into it. But as much work as it is, it's also so fulfilling and really fills our buckets, I think, as apologists and as women who love the Lord and who do this kind of thing year round. It is so encouraging to be the body of Christ together and to fellowship and to learn from one another. So if you haven't been able to come to our WIA conference yet, I hope you will come next September. I'm going off the top of my head here. I think it's the 11th and 12th.
10th and 11th.
10th and 11th?
I think so, yeah. Either way, that weekend.
Either way. Check our womeninapologetics.com. We'll have the for sure date. It will be outside of Tampa and Idlewild, Florida. Wait, no, the church is called Idlewild. I think it's in a different city. Idlewild Baptist Church in Florida. Hey, if you want to come down to beautiful Florida, you should join us next year for our WIA conference. We're already starting to plan that. We're very, very excited about that.
And it's important to note, I don't know if you noticed this too. I think we all kind of noticed that the conversations didn't stop in the conference. Yes. Women were walking out the doors still having these conversations. And I know everywhere I went for lunch with people, the conversations were still going. And we're still obviously having these conversations. So it just does. It fills your cup and it just keeps going. It overflows everywhere.
Yes. So fun. Well, Cassie, tell us how you've been. I know we just talked about where we've been. We've been in Texas for a little while, but how's life going? Do you have any chaos of the week that you would like to share this week?
Yeah. So I was actually reflecting on this earlier because I feel like every week I have, the chaos that drives you crazy, the kind of Jesus take the wheel chaos.
Amen.
But then a lot of the chaos that I've had since the conference has been the kind that really has been beautiful in a way. And what I mean by that is, for instance, I tutor at our homeschool co-op. And I have this group of 8 kids, and they are the most energetic 8 kids I have ever met. And I know every week going into this, I have to say a prayer, Jesus, help me meet their energy levels because I need to keep them engaged. But it's been amazing. My son met his best friend in that class last year, and the relationships that are building there are beautiful, and the parents and the community. And then we have like a 2.5-hour gap between that and when we go to church small group. And yesterday in that gap, my mother-in-law texted me and said, can I come make chocolate chip cookies with the girls? And I said, yes, I'm not going to turn down cookies. No. So she did. And it was amazing. And that's its own chaos, honestly, because kids will get flour in places that defy the laws of physics. Amen. But they had a blast and they learned. And it was so sweet to watch her just spend that time and teach them and love on them. And then we all rushed off to small group because she needed to go to hers. Yeah. And then we get to small group and my small group has 8 families. And between those 8, I think it's 8 families. Between those 8 families, we have 23 kids. So
Wow.
it's a small group.
Yeah.
That it is a microcosm of the bigger church family at our church. But it's just this beautiful group of families that have loved on each other for close to a decade now. And our kids are growing up together, So anyway, it was the most chaotic day yesterday, but all of that chaos was actually beautiful, And so I could sit back at the end of the day and be like, oh, it's finally silent. I can have a breather. But I can also look back and be like, oh, all that chaos, though, is pouring God's love into my kids and into my family. And it was wonderful. So a little bit different this week, but I hope that makes sense.
I love it. And that's what you're going to remember. You're not going to remember how tired you were at the end of the day. You're going to remember those memories, and your kids are going to remember those memories of fellowship and fun and community. How awesome is that?
Yeah.
I kind of have a fun chaos story as well. So I don't know who decides this, but apparently October is Pastor Appreciation Month. Ooh. I don't know who comes up with the national month for pastors, but anyway, so I go into I serve as the girls minister at my church, if you're a new listener. And so I go into my church office, and every minister or pastoral staff's office had an explosion of decorations of cards that the children's ministry members had made. And I'm guessing it was our children's ministry staff had taped them to the outside of our office doors and stuff. So that was such a sweet, adorable surprise. But this one card, I'm going to hold a picture up to the camera if you're watching. I laughed so hard at this because it's just from the mouths of babes. It says, obey God, turn away from sin. Thank you. I love you.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh my gosh. I love that so much.
Obey God, turn away from sin. Thank you. I love you. No, not signed. So thank you, precious child, boy or girl, who wrote me that. I got so tickled over that, and I just loved it so much.
Oh, you need to laminate that and put it on the office wall permanently. This is what we're aiming for, guys. Turn away from sin.
Turn away from sin. Obey God. Thank you. I love you. That's how you have to have hard conversations sometimes, especially I work with teenagers. Yes, you need to say the truthful thing, even if it's hard, but you also have to remind them that you still love them, and there's grace, and that card really did that for me. So I appreciate that.
Oh, so sweet.
If you've been impacted by Clarity Over Chaos or any of the resources that Women in Apologetics provides, would you consider partnering with us through a monthly gift? Your support helps us continue this vital work and reach even more individuals with the tools they need to stand firm in their faith. Personally, I am so proud to be a part of WIA because each woman on our team faithfully uses her gifts and abilities as we produce resources to equip our sisters in Christ to defend their faith. You can help support this mission of ours by getting started with a monthly gift at womeninapologetics.com/donate. Okay, so let's get into our topic of the day. So we've previously recorded an episode about this kind of topic, which is living in a world that feels like it's falling apart. Why does God allow evil and suffering and pain to go on when we know that he is good and he loves us and he's all powerful? So if you haven't listened to our previous episode about personal, maybe even interpersonal sin issues that create so much evil and suffering in the world, I encourage you to go listen to that one, because we talk about things like, why does God even give us the choice to sin? How he made us as moral beings where we can choose to either obey him or to not. And of course, when we don't obey God and his laws, we end up with chaos and evil and suffering in the world. So for the sake of today's episode, though, we want to talk a little bit about what it feels like when the literal world is falling apart. Why are there natural disasters? Why does it feel like the earth is falling apart sometimes? Environmental issues, things like that. So Cassie, I will kick the ball over to you. How do you personally think through these things as a Christian?
So first of all, I want to caveat anything I say with, I am not a scientist. I am not going to talk about, plates crashing into each other and all these other things.
Yes.
That is not my area. But I will say that when I look at it, there are some things that we know are the result of the fall, right? And we know that things like the flood changed the world too. And so there are a lot of things that have changed since God created the world, and all of that change started with Adam and Eve's choosing to sin, right? So we know that the world is broken in pretty much every way. And so the other piece that I look at there, though, is that even though we know that to be true, none of that changes the fact that God is in control. And so Abraham Kuyper has a quote he talks about, and I'm just going to summarize because I don't remember the exact wording, but it's basically that there is no part of the universe that Jesus does not look at and say, that's mine. It's all his. He's in control of all of it. And so even when it seems like we look at the headlines and we see awful things like earthquakes in Turkey and tsunamis in the Pacific and flooding in Iowa and Kentucky and Tennessee, and anyway, it looks like the world is just completely, what is going on? We can really take a lot of peace from the fact that even in all of that, God is still in control. And that really has to be our hope that we go back to. The Bible talks about our hope being anchored in Jesus. It really is.
Yeah.
And I know that having talked to some people that have lived through these things, even going through it, as awful as it can be, that hope is still there. It is still present. And I take a lot of comfort in that. I've never lived through a natural disaster myself. But I have talked to those who have, and that has been a common thread. That the peace of God, amazingly, is still there. Even in the grief and loss and devastation that can come from these things. And actually, we even see God use those things powerfully on the other side, right? So a huge part of it that I've noticed is there is usually a really big response from the church when these things happen. I remember the first time I ever noticed this, I was in middle school, I think, and we were driving through Kentucky, and there had been devastating flooding, just absolute devastation. Homes swept away. There were even pictures of like a church steeple floating by, just all these horrific images from this flooding. And we stopped at this hotel, and I looked out in the parking lot, and it was full of church vans. Like, those old school vans with like the church name on the side, First Baptist Church, Kentucky.
Yeah, 15 passengers.
And so, yes. And so it was full of vans like that, and pickups that had business names on them and stuff like that, that were like electricians and things like that. And I thought, is there some kind of convention in town? Like, what is going on? And then the front desk person explained to us that breakfast was gone. There was no breakfast left because those people were all there for relief. They'd already come through at like 4 a.m. and the hotel had given them all breakfast and fed them all. And they were all out. They were headed out to go do relief stuff. So all those churches were there to do relief work. They were being the hands and feet of God, of Jesus to the people suffering. And that was the first time I really thought, oh my gosh, that's a lot of churches. That's a huge response. But then if you watch the headlines, the more you pay attention, the more you see that. Right up to the recent horrible earthquake that was in Turkey. My church sponsors a missionary in Turkey. And we were able to send funding that helped them get a vehicle and supplies. And they went into that zone, and they were literally going through rubble, taking people to safety, ministering to them, sharing the gospel with them, even just giving them a water bottle.
Yeah.
Was being the hands and feet of Jesus to these people who are suffering. And if you look throughout history, Glenn Sunshine from the Colson Center likes to say the first thing you'll notice is the church runs into the darkness. The church runs into these problems. And that's really an amazing thing to look for. And that gives me hope too. That it's not just, we say that we believe this in church, and then we go out into the world and it's just what we do on Sunday. These people are proving that this isn't just a club we go to on Sunday. This is real. This means something, and we do care about the world and going out in there and ministering to people. Those are my initial thoughts. What are yours, Jade?
I love that. I agree with you. I am certainly not a scientist whatsoever, so I can't explain how man's fallen nature and how sin affects the natural world at a molecular level. The Bible does not get that specific, but it's clear in Romans 8, for example, where it talks about how creation itself is groaning under the curse of sin, groaning under its brokenness, and longs, just like we are longing for the day of glorification, the day when God's going to make all things new. We will not permanently live on a broken, fallen earth. He's going to make, this earth will pass away and he will make a new heaven and a new earth. But in the meantime, yeah, there are things about the world that are broken, including somehow our weather systems and things like that. There's wildfires, there's all kind of things. And these kind of things are hard, I think, in particular, because I can look at a person who did something evil and be like, they chose that. But a natural disaster feels much more like an act of God kind of thing. Like no one specifically is behind this hurricane or that wildfire. I mean, perhaps a wildfire if it was an arson or type of thing, but an earthquake, no one caused that. And so those things are hard to grapple with, because it was like, where did this come from? God, could you have stopped this? Well, of course he could have. And that's really where our faith has to become one of those walking by faith and not by sight kind of things. God, I know you still love me. I know you're still with me, and you care about me, and you see me even during this wreckage, during this horrible thing. I live in South Louisiana, and I've lived through many hurricanes, including Hurricane Katrina. I was in 8th grade and saw firsthand friends and family lose everything, and the utter failure of the government and their response. Like, if you want to do an hour podcast of me just ranting about how awful that was, let me know. I'm just kidding. But it was horrible. Putting your hope in FEMA or in the government to provide efficient response to you is likely you are likely to be disappointed. I'll just say that. And so, but immediately my church became a hub for donations and helping people. The church is just mobilized. And even as in 2021, we had Hurricane Ida, which was pretty bad here, and just being part of the teams that went out, clean people's yards. And as Christians, it's not like, hey, are you a Christian? We'll clean your yard. No, whoever needs help, we're going to show up. It doesn't matter what race you are or the faith that you have. Like, you're my neighbor and I care about you and God cares about you, and we're going to show up. And so I love that you mentioned that being in Kentucky and just seeing church vans ready to go, ready to run into that, into the mess, when it'd be much more convenient and pleasant to avoid it. I love what you said about the church vans that you saw being ready to assist after that natural national disaster. And I love, my church is a part of the Southern Baptist Convention, and we have a huge disaster relief network that mobilizes immediately after natural disasters. And that is a point in time where the church gets to show up. And so I encourage you, if you're listening, whether there's a tornado in the town you've been through, or if you get the chance to go on a cleanup trip after a disaster, whatever it might be, show up, be the hands and feet of Jesus, ask people if you can pray for them. And you don't have to have the answers. You don't have to, I encourage you not to come up with here's why God did this, just like people said that after Katrina, like God was doing this to New Orleans for this, this, and this. Not helpful. No. You cannot know the reasons this happened, but just offering to pray with people, tell them, I know this is hard, and I don't know why this happened, but I just want you to know God still sees you. He loves you and he cares about you, even if this is a very dark time. People need hope. They definitely need hope in these dark times.
Yeah, I love that, Jade. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think there's also an important piece to this, though, that we have to address from a Christian worldview, and that is this idea of climate alarmism. The idea that the environment is changing, global warming, the polar ice caps are melting, the world is going to blow up any minute now. There is a certain amount of truth to that. There are things we don't need to be alarmed at, right? And so the first piece of that is God has given us a mandate to steward the world, right? That was the first thing he told Adam, is to take care of the world. God created it all, and he gave it to Adam to take care of. And so we do have this responsibility to steward this planet. It's not just, we talk a lot about stewarding our funds or stewarding our time or things like that, but we do have to take care of the planet too. That is still our job. And it is still all of our job, not just biologists. So even though I'm not a scientist, I still have the job to make sure that I'm not dumping trash all over my front yard and destroying the planet, right?
Yeah.
And being kind to animals and doing things like that I know God would still want us to do. But with that, we also don't have to be afraid of the changes we see going on in the world. I mean, we can read Revelation and get a decent idea of how the world is going to end. And the big thing you can notice there is that, once again, God is still in control. Yes. The world isn't just going to implode because we drove our cars too much. I'm not saying we shouldn't be aware of those things and take care of the world and recycle when you can, do these things, take the steps that you can, but don't fear it. We don't need to fear it. And yes, I would say there may be some truth to the things that we have done to the planet, the way that we consume the planet, parts of it, right? How that affects our environment.
Totally.
The plants that grow. I mean, we're reading a book with our kids, Lewis and Clark's Expedition, and the just amazing country that they discovered going across this country. They just plentiful with animals that you hardly ever see anymore. So we know that humans have an effect on the planet. And sometimes it's not good. And sometimes it's going to have bad effects. We have animals that have gone extinct. And that's not good, right? Nobody's saying that that's not there or that it's a good thing. What we are saying is that in all of that, we come into the world in the time and place we're in, and we take responsibility for the time and place that we're given. And so we steward the world as best we can where we are.
Absolutely.
And we don't fear these things. We don't fear the world changing, the temperatures rising, all of these things. We just do our best to steward the world as best we can and know that God is in control and he's going to take care of everything else. Right? Does that make sense?
Amen. That was perfectly explained. I could not have done a better job explaining that. That was excellent. I completely agree. Yeah. It breaks my heart when I see videos of like rivers and oceans like absolutely clogged with trash and massive companies spewing toxic chemicals in the atmosphere. Of course, that's going to have an effect on our planet. And that's not honoring the creation that God gave us. And that's hard. And I agree. I think it's a worthy cause for Christians to care about the environment, to steward well this beautiful planet God gave us, paired with still knowing, just as you said, God is in control. I love what scripture talks about, like with Jesus upholds the world by his power. Like none of us would even be existing, breathing. The world would not be spinning if God was not actively withholding and upholding the world. So he is truly in control. We don't have to be afraid of the earth, completely flooding and we're all going to drown. God promises he won't let that happen. But we don't need to abuse the earth. We don't need to abuse our bodies or the earth, anything like that. And so, as a Christian, you can totally care about the environment and care about animals. Oh my goodness. I'm so passionate about like adopting pets and animals rather than buying them when you can, just to care for these creatures God's given us that are often, discarded or overbred, anything like that. Care about the earth, care about animals and taking care of God's creation, but don't live with this crippling fear of the world catching on fire and burning and we're all going to die a slow and painful death. We have hope in the Lord for all of these things, natural disasters, environmental issues. He is in control, but that doesn't negate us of responsibility to steward the world well.
Yes. Yeah. And there is a good resource. Sean McDowell, his book, Rebels Manifesto, has a chapter on the environment. And I really recommend that. It gives you kind of a good overview of a biblical perspective on this. And one thing he quotes in there is there's a certain famous teenager, Greta Thunberg, who said she does want people to panic. We should be panicking. And I think his message in there is, no, we don't need to panic. We don't, that's like you said, there doesn't need to be the fear. Responsibility, yes, we should feel the burden of responsibility, but that doesn't mean panic. The Christian message is we can come alongside people like her to help steward the world, but also bring the message that God is in control. There's no need to panic.
Amen. That is such a good book. I read that with some students last year and we loved it. That's Rebels Manifesto by Sean McDowell has they're really short, readable chapters about almost any topic you might be thinking through, even like gun violence to sexuality, like to anything regarding like a Christian worldview. Highly recommend for young people like you guys, for sure. Well, this has been an awesome conversation, Cassie. Thank you, as always, for joining us this week. And we thank all of you guys for listening in. We love you so much. We are praying for you. And we encourage you to keep living out your faith well. And we're here to encourage you, to support you, and to hopefully teach you something week to week. So thank you so much for tuning in to Clarity Over Chaos. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.